place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace now offers free assembly and free delivery, so it's never been easier to get a great grill for your family, like a Weber gas grill, a Traeger wood pellet grill, or a Big Green Egg charcoal grill. Only at your neighborhood Ace. Around the block. What you need in stock. With people who know their grills.
This is Brad from Gibson Ace Hardware in Clinton, Illinois. Stop in to see us, the helpful place at 114 North Madison Street, Clinton.
See participating store for details.
From the Hart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning, and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. The DeWitt County Board Chair is weighing in on the county's Land Use Committee taking up the county's ordinances around data centers. Joe Whitty told the Hart Media Group that at last Thursday night's DeWitt County Board meeting, the board approved a resolution affirming the fact that data centers are not addressed in the county ordinances.
All we passed last night was a resolution which affirmed our interpretation of the current state of our ordinances, that data centers are not addressed in our ordinances, therefore they're not allowed. And that's essentially what that resolution did. So it really had no effect. The data centers not being in our ordinance as an allowed use means that the zoning administrator, if she were to get an application for one, she couldn't process that. And, we had some discussion, obviously, in land use last week regarding data centers. But at the end of the day, we're not really taking any action that changes the current state. It was just a resolution affirming what our current state is. You may recall, I think you had a story or two about land use and what was brought up there. And what was discussed in land use last week was a moratorium on data centers, starting a text amendment to look into, what type of requirements would be needed if we were to have a data center, and you get that process running just to get ahead of it. And, there's some concerns with going down that path. I think even in land use, we discussed, well, if it's not in the zoning, it's not allowed. So, I guess it depends on what's the intent of that, going down that path of starting a moratorium when it's not necessary because they're not allowed.
For Whitty, the data center discussion is very premature. He feels opening up that discussion would definitely bring interest for someone looking to develop, but additionally, there is no interest currently in data centers in DeWitt County.
One of my concerns was if we had gone down that path, started a text amendment, created an ordinance for data centers, what do? We're advertising that, hey, we've got an ordinance for data centers. As long as you can meet the criteria, that's an allowed use in our county right now. And I didn't see any need at this point to go down that path because we don't have any businesses reaching out saying that they have an interest in that. Well, let's wait until, somebody approaches us. And at that time, it wouldn't be allowed. At that time, we'd have to go down that path of creating a text amendment and probably have more information shared with us as to how to do that appropriately. So just a lot of discussion. I think there's some concerns with what's being discussed more broadly outside of DeWitt County and the concerns raised with data centers.
While many want the county to begin working on ordinances dealing with data centers, Whitty points to when the county began addressing wind ordinances, and by the time they had a developer ready to build, the ordinances were old and outdated.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm aware of discussions going on. I know that the state just passed a tax, basically froze the tax benefits for a couple of years on these. So, there's a lot of discussion happening more broadly than DeWitt County. And I know that there's concerns, but we're not hearing from anybody at this time that they want to pursue something. And the first step would be, if somebody did want to build a data center here, they'd have to approach the county, and we don't have an ordinance for that. So that would start the process, and that's not going to happen quickly. So at that time, we could start gathering information. What if we don't have anything for 10 years, right? Then our ordinance is something that we have to maintain. You got to keep up with the technology. And if you don't, then you've got requirements developed in 2026 to 2026 technology that somebody can meet those. And now we've got I remember the developer for the wind farm for Tradewind at the time. They argued during some of the discussions on text amendments that you've got an ordinance. To us, that's an invitation to come to DeWitt County, right? And that stuck with me. So if we create a data center ordinance, that's kind of advertising that DeWitt County is open for data centers, right?
While many in the community have their concerns regarding data centers, Whitty feels the county shouldn't be completely closed off to the idea, pointing to the power station with its second permit and plenty of land.
Now, on the flip side, if you pass a moratorium, you're saying DeWitt County is closed, at least for now. And there might be good developments. There's, remember, and I brought this up in land use, we've got a power plant here that has a second permit, right? And a lot of ground and a lake. And so a lot of the concerns around data centers, those may not apply to somebody, in that situation. So I don't think it makes sense to advertise that, hey, we're close to this. At the same time, I don't think it makes sense to advertise, hey, we've got an ordinance, come look at DeWitt County, when we're not hearing anything. So like I said, it just a lot of discussion, and I just think a lot of that was premature.
At last Thursday night's DeWitt County Board meeting, there were several representatives from Exelon in attendance. Still to come with Whitty this week from the Hart Media Group, another solar developer has submitted an application. Whitty gives an update on that potential project. Now for your local obituaries. Ralph Greider, 87, of Anchor, Illinois, passed away at 6:12 a.m. March 21st, 2026 at his family home in Anchor. Calvert Funeral Home in Clinton is in charge of arrangements. Online condolences may be made at calvertmemorial.com. Marla R. Elderton, 76, of Clinton, Illinois, passed away at 9:58 a.m. March 20th, 2026 at the Ark at Normal in Normal, Illinois. Calvert Funeral Home in Clinton is in charge of arrangements. Online condolences may be made at calvertmemorial.com. Get news anytime from your computer or your mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. That's DeWitt County's #1 source for news, sports, police blotter, obituaries, and more. Best of all free, all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is Seth Lawrence, News and Program Director for WHOW and WEZC. We take pride in being Clinton and Central Illinois' local radio stations each and every day, 7 days a week. What does local news mean? Here's a sample.
This is a topic that myself and the other law enforcement leaders that you have on the show frequently are talking about.
It's been really fun. He's a really funny character, and I like the screen time that I get.
Well, we're kind of ground zero for storm development today.
It's going to be Friday, April 3rd. That's Good Friday. We do one Good Friday every year. It's the only one that we host. We know this is going to be a big deal, and we're going to try to do some cool things in Farmer City to help celebrate that.
You hear the local people that make the news every day, 7 days a week on the big 1520 AM, 92.3 FM, and 106.5 FM WHOW, and on your easy choice for soft hits, 95.9 FM WEZC.
WHOW is Central Illinois' ag station, and that includes providing farmers information on how the commodity markets close each day and week. I'm Todd Gleason from Illinois Public Media, University of Illinois Extension, inviting you to hear the daily closing market report weekday afternoons at 5:06, and on Saturdays, tune in for Commodity Week with a review of the week's markets at 8:30 in the morning, all on WHOW, AM, FM, and streamed online.
Looking for a provider who puts your health first? SIU Family Medicine is accepting new patients. Call 217-735-2317 today to schedule your first appointment. That's 217-735-2317. SIU Medicine, forward for you.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, IL Sports Wire and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Ben Hubbard with this local sports report. Alyssa Armstrong allowed an unearned run and went the distance in circle, leading Argenta-Oreana to a 2-1 win over Monticello in non-conference high school softball action on Monday in Argenta. Armstrong outdueled Madison Highland for Monticello. Highland went 4 innings of 2-run ball. 1 was earned. Armstrong struck out 3 and allowed 7 hits. The only Lady Sages run was scored in the 6th inning when Allie Widener scored Emma Lawhead with a double. Sadie Walsh was 2 for 4 for Monticello. Monticello falls to 3-2 overall. They host Tuscola on Tuesday. Mount Pulaski's defensive struggle continued Monday afternoon as an error in the bottom of the 7th inning allowed St. Joseph-Ogden to score the winning run and walk off the Hilltoppers 4-3 in non-conference high school baseball action in St. Joseph. Trevor Ames grounded on the infield, and an error on the play allowed Logan Rosenthal to score the winning run. Ames was 1 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs. Rosenthal was 2 for 4 for the Spartans. Aaron Voley was 1 for 2 with a double for Mount Pulaski, who drops to 0-2 overall. The Hilltopper season opening loss to Nokomis was marred by a late-game meltdown, including several errors. Luke Martin, Carter Clark, and Tyler Cross had RBIs. The Hilltoppers will look to right the ship when they host Williamsville on Friday. Normal West scored 3 runs in the top of the 4th inning and rallied to its first win of the season, a 6-4 victory over the Chilton County from Clinton, Alabama, in non-conference high school spring break baseball action in Alabama on Monday. Trailing 4-2, Chase Reinhardt doubled in a run to cut the Wildcats' deficit to 4-3. 3 batters later, Sam McCulley singled in a tying run, and an error on the play scored a second run to put Normal West up 5-4 in the opener of 2 from Alabama. Reinhardt was 2 for 5 with a double and 2 RBIs, while McCulley was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Jack Stedinger and Drake Rumps each had a double, while Charlie Hanks added a triple. In its second game of the day, a 6-run 5th inning propelled Normal West to a 12-5 win over Jasper, Alabama on Monday in high school baseball action in Alabama. McCulley homered to lead off the frame and put the Wildcats up 4-1. Later in the inning, Stedinger walked in a run, and Ty Backman cleared the bases with a single, and a duo of errors scored all 3 base runners to put Normal West up 9-1. McCulley drove in 4 for the game, going 4 for 5. Backman was 4 for 5 with a double and 2 RBIs. Jasper Pomis drove in 2 for Normal Community, going 2 for 4. The Wildcats are 2-2 overall. They are back in action in Alabama on Tuesday morning at 11:30 a.m. opposite Shades Valley. Mattis Buzelis' layup in the final seconds put Chicago ahead to stay, and Colin Sexton came off the bench to score 25 points as the Chicago Bulls beat the Houston Rockets 132-124 on Monday night. Houston's loss, combined with San Antonio's 136-111 win over Miami, allowed the Spurs, who are 54-18, to clinch the Southwest Division. The Bulls are 29-42 and led by as many as 22 points after scoring a season-high 41 points in the first quarter. But Chicago trailed by 4 points late and needed Buzelis' basket with 10.2 seconds remaining to move ahead to stay and post their first win over Houston in the team's last 5 games. Kevin Durant fueled the Rockets' comeback by scoring 15 of his game-high 40 points in the fourth quarter. They fall to 43-28. Durant was 15 of 23 from the field, marking the 9th straight game he shot 50% or better, which is the 3rd longest streak of his career. Rockets coach Ime Udoka was ejected after being assessed his second technical foul of the game with 9.1 seconds remaining. Sexton scored 17 of his points in the first quarter, while Buzelis finished with 23 and Leonard Miller had 17. Josh Giddey, Trey Jones, and Jalen Smith each scored 15 points apiece for the Bulls, with Giddey adding 13 assists. After trailing by 17 at the half, the Rockets took the lead on a Jabari Smith three-pointer with 5 minutes and 56 seconds to play. Alperen Sengun scored 33 for the Rockets, and Amen Thompson had 23 points. Jalen Smith, who was listed as questionable after missing the Bulls' last game with an ankle injury, tied his season high in points and finished with 6 rebounds and 2 blocks off the bench, despite being limited to 26 minutes. The Rockets had won 2 straight after inserting second-year guard Reed Shepherd into the starting lineup. Shepherd shot 3 for 14 from three-point distance. The Rockets visit Minnesota on Wednesday, while the Bulls visit Philadelphia on Wednesday. Chicago Cubs outfielder Seiya Suzuki will start the season on the injured list as he recovers from a sprained right knee sustained while playing for Japan in the World Baseball Classic. The Cubs had previously ruled Suzuki out of Thursday's opener against Washington. Manager Craig Counsell said Monday that Suzuki is heading to the injured list after spraining the posterior cruciate ligament in the knee in Japan's loss to Venezuela on March 14th in the WBC quarterfinals. The 31-year-old Suzuki walked gingerly to the dugout after a headfirst slide into second base when he was caught stealing in the first inning. Suzuki was replaced in center field after the end of that half inning. Suzuki is going into the final season of an $85 million 5-year contract. He has hit .269 with 87 home runs and 269 RBIs in 532 games for the Cubs, including a team-leading 103 RBIs with 32 homers in 2025. The Cubs are adding veteran Michael Conforto to the 40-man roster ahead of the opener. Conforto was a non-roster invitee to spring training. The 33-year-old hit .273 this spring. Conforto batted just .199 with 12 home runs last season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Cardinals are entering the 2026 season with low expectations, as the plan throughout the offseason was clear in building toward the future. It might not be a radical one, but this is one of the few rebuilds in the history of the storied organization. Expected to be at the forefront of the next contending Cardinals team is top prospect JJ Wetherholt, a middle infielder who was drafted 7th overall in 2024 out of West Virginia. That news starts on opening day as Wetherholt will break camp with the major league team out of spring training, the team announced Monday. The expectation is that Wetherholt will play second base with stud defender Mason Wynn at shortstop and possibly even be the everyday leadoff man. Last season, Wetherholt played in 62 games at the AA level before 47 with AAA Memphis. He hit .306, .421, and .510 with 28 doubles, 2 triples, 17 homers, 59 RBIs, 82 runs, and 23 stolen bases. He struck out 73 times with 72 walks in 496 plate appearances. In 15 games with the big league Cardinals in spring training, Wetherholt hit .212, .386, .394 with 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 runs, and 2 steals. He drew 9 walks in 44 plate appearances, which is always a good sign. Wetherholt won't carry the burden alone, but he'll be one of the more exciting reasons to watch the Cardinals this season as winning takes a back seat to player development. He enters the season as one of the favorites for National League Rookie of the Year. In scores from around the NBA last night, the Indiana Pacers beat the Orlando Magic 128-126, while the Detroit Pistons took down the LA Lakers 113-110. The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Philadelphia 76ers 123-103, and the San Antonio Spurs beat the Miami Heat 136-111. The Atlanta Hawks routed the Memphis Grizzlies 146-107, while the Toronto Raptors beat the Utah Jazz 143-127. The Golden State Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks 137-131 in overtime, while the Portland Trailblazers romped the Brooklyn Nets 134-99, and the LA Clippers beat the Milwaukee Bucks 129-96. Just a single game in the NHL last night. That was the Ottawa Senators beating the New York Rangers 2-1. Get highlights of your local high school program by finding IL Sports Wire on your preferred social media platforms, and get local sports anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
AgriTalk is the radio talk show for American agriculture. Hi, everybody. I'm Chip Flory, your host. We join you weekday mornings from 10 until 11 on WHOW, on AM and FM, and on the WHOW streams. We provide farmers and ranchers with timely insights and information aimed at improving their operations. Join me, Chip Flory, weekdays at 10:06 on Central Illinois Ag Station, WHOW.
Here's Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson on how he works to save you money every day.
I watch the Decatur market very carefully.